Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Grace Covenant Presbyterian Church. I'm Marcia Mount-Shoup. I'm one of the pastors here. I'm glad we're able to gather today and worship and learn and grow together. Just a few things as we settle into our space here today. One is that we do have childcare, and we are adapting, we are pivoting in this time of disaster. So if your kid wants to go out and be with the child care workers, that is fine. If they want to come back in for faith sharing, that's fine. So just take care of yourself, families with young children. As we get settled, we also just invite us into the collective memory that we have been cultivating now for several years around the story of this land. That feels especially important as we approach this Thanksgiving week, and that this is a week filled with mythology around land and around our relationship with indigenous people. So it's important for us to remember our own relationship with this land and the history and the truth of the way that land and Christianity and power and whiteness have done harm. So can anybody remember what the Fire people, who we call the Cherokee, what they call this land? Togiatsi. Togiatsi. That is the name that the original people who made home in this land called the land Togiatsi. So they invite us to call the land Togiatsi because the land recognizes that name. It's its first name. And does anybody remember how we name, what are some things we name around the way this church holds a larger story that's not just about this particular church, but about Presbyterians and Christians in general? Anybody remember some of the things we name in our land acknowledgement? Doctrine of Discovery. Christianity authorizing genocide and the stealing of land. Yes. Redlining. Sorry. Boarding schools for indigenous children. Manifest Destiny. Anything else anybody remembers from our evocation that we do on a regular basis here? The street names, that's right. That even the name of our city and the name of the street that our address is Merriman, these are named after people who not only enslaved people, but Merriman was somebody who was a very powerful leader in ending Reconstruction efforts. So all these things are a part of how we get grounded here, grounded in the truth. So I just invite you to take a few deep breaths and let that breath go all the way down to your toes. And maybe you can even wiggle your toes or stomp your feet a little bit. Just feel your feet on the ground. Your feet on this ground that has a story to tell, that has a history, that changes and grows. Does anybody remember what we named toward the end of our land acknowledgement about what's growing here these days at Grace Covenant? Food, community, anything else? Justice. So that doesn't erase the history, but it amplifies it. That this is our intention now together. So continue to breathe and just sort of notice how your body's feeling right now. If you're feeling some tension or maybe some fatigue, maybe some anxiety or confusion or disorientation, that's okay. Whatever you're feeling is okay. Now our bodies, every time we come into a new space or we come into a place with new people, our nervous system is busy trying to figure out what state it needs to shift into. I just saw Blake yawn, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Yawning is about changing states. And the reason it's contagious, because I felt like I needed to yawn right when I saw Blake yawn, is that we are all trying to change states. So let's try a big yawn. Oh, okay. You might want to do a few of them now. You kind of, yawns come sometimes in groups, but we're all changing states to be together. And that act of a yawn actually gets more oxygen in your system. It literally tells your brain, we've got to do something different now. Sometimes it's, we got to go to sleep. Sometimes it's, we got to wake up. Sometimes it's, I need to try to listen to this sermon and it's hard. Yawning can do all kinds of things. So let's do another couple of yawns. Good. One more. Good. Now remember, your nervous system is also scanning for safety and for threat. And one of the things we can do to really give it a way to calm itself, a way to ground itself, is to look for the exits, right? We've got one here. We got two on the sides, one in the middle. The balcony has two. And basically that whole wall out there is an exit. So there are lots of ways to get out. And you can tell your nervous system that. So let's turn our heads to the right and to the left. Look up. Look down. Now make eye contact with as many people as you can. Good. One more deep breath. Whew.
I invite you to hum. Just keep humming. So this is our last Sunday to do We the People for a little while. Next Sunday we'll be starting Advent. So we're going to do this in the 4-part round. They did such a great job with that last week. So this group here and this group here, you're going to be part 1 and you'll sing with Michaela. Part 2, up on the chancel, you'll sing with Josie. You guys. And let me see, how did I come into about here, right? You guys are going to be part 3 and you'll sing with Andrea. And then you folks will be part 4 and we'll sing with Matt, okay? We're going to sing it twice together. Everybody's singing it together, and then we're going to break into the 4 parts, okay? Hey, here we go. We the people gathered in this place. We the
as we come to our time of truth-telling this morning, we find ourselves reflecting on this theme of gratitude that comes to us on Thanksgiving. And I don't want to give too much away, but Marsha's going to be talking about that. But we're in this season right now where we, because of our culture in America or because of Christian culture, folks might be pulling us into gratitude a little early, given everything that's going on. And there's some struggle in that. There's some challenge. I know I feel some resistance. So our truth-telling question prompt for this morning is, what's hard or challenging about our culture pulling us in to gratitude too quickly? We'll be interspersing our responses with the Kyrie that we've been singing for the past couple of weeks. Ray, I wonder if you would kick us off with one of those just so we can get it in our ears. Thank you. So, I see a hand over here.
I think that when it pulls me in too soon, and I've been taught really to focus on the gratitude, is I discount my own pain.
Thank you. I see you, Mal. Okay. I can get this one.
Okay.
Could you pass this back, please?
I think on top of discounting your own pain, I think it's like that you can't feel like multiple feelings at once, that you can't live in the complexity of like things are really hard and I'm grateful for the things I have.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you, Malachi.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions of being grateful instead of actually taking the time to feel grateful for something. I'm just saying that I'm grateful and then moving on.
Thank you, Blake.
Did I see it?
When I first came here, I came to go to Montreat College, and it was this feel of, let's hurry up and get to the reconciliation, right? We don't want to acknowledge any hurt or harm. We don't want to sit in that because that's uncomfortable. So let's all just kumbaya. Let's get to the reconciliation. Hurry up. Come on. And that did not feel good. And no matter how much I tried to articulate that, they just didn't get it.
Thank you, MC.
Ray, could we have...
There's something, I want to say corrupt, I'm not sure that's the right word, because of the, I don't know where all it comes from, but for the grace of God goes me. And that's just, when somebody's in a hardship or you're driving through Swannanoa, you say there, but for the grace of God goes me. It's some screwed up kind of gratitude.
Yeah. Thank you, Lynn. There's something in the chat, Luke.
Thank you.
Gratefulness can easily whitewash things. Yes.
Thank you.
And the same, along with the last two people, I realized that being more or less, most ways, spared by the storm, that's not because of my virtue or even because God chose me. Some of it's because of my privilege. You know, I got enough money to live on a hill instead of down by a river where the poor folks live. So that gratitude turns kind of sour.
Thank you. Ray?
We've got another one from the chat. What is difficult is the lack of a knowledge of pain and suffering. Rushing gratitude sometimes ignores harm. That was from Libby. And Marta, feeling gratitude for our call and response for the hurricane relief, and we still have so many unhoused siblings in our own backyard.
Thank you.
It's a variation on a theme, but holding the dichotomy of gratitude and grief, and allowing each to have space, and not, when the grief comes, not to force it back into gratitude.
Thank you, Matthew.
To me, it cheapens the opportunity to see the beauty in dark and pain and its truth, so that we can really look at it and be authentic with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Okay.
I am really grateful for how uncomfortable I have been over the last year and a half or so, as I have learned more and more about what privilege has done to the world that I live in. I feel a great deal of gratitude, and it's a different kind of gratitude than I have ever experienced. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Alexandra. We have some other comments in the chat. Libby Kyle said yes to gratitude and grief. And D. Cooper, sometimes the pull to gratitude by others is their own discomfort with being with those in pain, harmed. Thus, the missed opportunity for presence and witness for healing.
Well, I'd say you need to try to accept both when they come, and listen to what's going on with you in the moment.
Thank you.
Did you see somebody over here? Oh, did you raise your hand? Did somebody raise their hand? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
My adversity of the magnitude that this community is experiencing, I'm grateful for the way in which it connects us to each other who already know each other, and to those whom we've not known so well. We're helping us build relationships that we would not otherwise have, cutting to the quick of what really counts in life and in community.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
there's enough. I invite you to hold your hand out wide like this so you can embody that feeling of abundance that this song sings about. Now I invite you to put a loving hand on your heart or on your head, wherever you need a little attention, and feel that abundance there as well. Breathe into that part of your body with love and grace and mercy. These are good things for us to remind each other of. And now, having received the assurance of this abundance, let's share it with one another, passing the peace of Christ with those in the sanctuary and with folks online. God's beloved, the peace of Christ be with you. God.
Good morning, friends.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, it's so good to see you all this morning. There's just a good energy in the air with all of you here, moving around. So, there's this thing that we learn to say, and I wonder if you all could tell me what it means. Can you help me? Be a little dictionary, a group dictionary. What does it mean when I say thank you? What does that mean? Anybody? What's it mean when, do you all ever say it? Do you ever say thank you? I bet. What does it mean when you say it? When do you say that? Anybody? We're going to give it a pregnant pause.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Somebody make you food.
Somebody makes you food.
Yeah.
So you say thank you. What are some other situations where you say thank you? Anybody? Yeah. You had one. If it comes back, you can let me know and I'll come back over. What are some other things that make you say thank you? Do you have one, Allie or Jacob? Maybe your mom can say it for you. What do you have, Allie?
We got Christmas on the brain. When somebody gives you a new toy, you say
That's thank you, Allie. Yes,
That's
when someone
good.
gives you a gift, you say thank you. Yeah. Let's one more. Does anybody have one more time? An example when you can think of when you might say thank you to somebody? Can you think of anything? So why do we use those words? What does it mean when somebody makes you food or gives you a present and then you say thank you? Does anybody know why we say that? What's the point? Is it to say, I don't want that? Is it to say, I don't like what you just gave me? Is it to say, get away from me? So what is thank you for? What is thank you for? Anybody? See, this is important for us to be talking. Oh, thank you. Wait, come back. I'm coming. Say that.
To be nice.
To be nice. Yeah, so it's good manners, yes?
To be kind.
To be kind.
Yeah.
Yes, to be kind. So if you do something for somebody, if you make somebody food, or you give them a present and they don't say thank you, how does that feel? Sad. You feel kind of sad. And mad. Yeah, that's truth. That's truth. So we have this thing that we learn, and it's in all different cultures. It's not just in America or in English that we say thank you. But our word for thank you actually comes from the same word that the word think comes from. Think and thank. And so literally when we say thank you, in our culture, in America, we're saying, I'm going to remember what you did for me. I'm going to remember this. I'm going to remember that you were kind. I'm going to remember that you gave me this gift. I'm going to remember this meal or this moment. I'm going to remember this. Thank you. So it's almost like I see you. This is really something I'm going to treasure. Now, in another language, the language I learned when I was a little girl, French, you say merci. Can you say that with me? Merci. And if you're really thankful, you'll say merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Yes. And that word comes from the same word as mercy. Mercy means being kind to someone, being compassionate to them, being gentle with them, maybe when they're having a tough time. Mercy. And so, merci beaucoup literally means this was a merciful thing. This was a time when you were compassionate and gentle, and I'm grateful. Now, there's another language we've been speaking a lot here at Grace Covenant lately, that's Spanish, and we say gracias. Can you say that? Gracias. And if you really want to say a big thank you, you'd say muchas gracias. Can you say that?
Muchas gracias.
Now that word gracias comes from the word grace. The same word for grace. And grace is really also about being really generous, having a big heart, being able to be with someone in all kinds of different ways. It's being a gentle and kind person. So these words for thank you, they mean, wow, this was something that was really good for me and us as humans. Grace and mercy and remembering and honoring each other. So that little thing that we learn to say all the time, thank you, thank you, thank you. Gosh, it's got a lot to it, doesn't it? It really does. And this week in our country, we say we're taking special time to say thank you for some things. And so I just invite you with your households, your families, your friends, your neighbors, to maybe stop and take a deep breath when you say thank you. And think about, like, what is happening right now? What is it that this is doing for us, for me and this person I'm saying thank you to? Is it making our relationship stronger? Does it feel like our love gets expressed in that? Does it? Yeah, that's right. How does it feel in your body when you say thank you to someone or they say thank you to you? So that's kind of your Thanksgiving homework, okay? It's just kind of taking a minute with your thank yous. And I want to thank you. Can we take a deep breath with that? Because you do a great job of helping us, all of us, stop, slow down, and think about some things a little bit more. And remember, think and thank, they come from the same thing. You help us think. And so thank you for that. All right, are you ready to pray? So you can decide however you want to use your body when you pray. You can do this. You can put your hand on your head and your heart. Or you can just open your hands like this, however you want to do it. It's really up to you. So can you all take a deep breath with me? In through your nose, out through your mouth. Good job. Dear God, thank you for this moment together as church. Thank you for all the ways you teach us how to take good care of each other. And thank you for your love that never lets us go. Amen. All right, you guys. You can go out with Moppy and friends, or you can stay in, whatever you choose. Our scripture this morning is from the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verses 30 through 44, and I need 4 readers. Anybody willing to be a reader today? Okay, there's Trina. Number 1. 2. Okay, got Kat over here. Did somebody else? Okay, Tim can be 3. And we got 1 more. Anybody? Okay, Kate. Go ahead, Trina.
John 11, verse 30 through 44. Now Jesus had not yet come to the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. Those who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary get up quickly and go out. They followed her because they thought that she was going to the tomb to weep there. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have not died."
When Jesus saw her weeping, and those who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep. So the people said, "See how he loved him?" But some of them said, "Could not be who opened the eyes of the blind man and have kept this man from dying."
Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, already there is a stench because he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?"
So they took away the stone, and Jesus looked upward and said, "Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me." When Jesus had said this, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go."
Our anthem this morning has a refrain that we want to invite you all to sing with us. And you'll know when we get there. And it'll be repeated several times, so just join with us.
Lost
choir. So, gratitude. Gratitude is a part of our spiritual DNA. If you look through the Psalms, which are some of the most ancient texts that we have in our faith tradition, there's so many that are about gratitude, or there's so many that involve gratitude. Psalm 136, 28, 95, 35, 52, 69, 103, 107. We could go on and on about the number of psalms that teach us about gratitude. Does anybody know how many times Jesus expresses gratitude in the Gospels? 3. 3. 3. So the feeding of the 5,000 was 1. And the raising of Lazarus was another, the story we just read. Does anybody know what the third one is? The Last Supper. Thank you. 3 times in all the Gospels. A lot of the gratitude language in the New Testament is in the epistles and writing that is attributed to somebody else, not Jesus. So gratitude is perhaps something that we know Jesus had it as a part of his formation. He was a good young Jewish boy, right? So he learned the Psalms. He learned about gratitude. But he was very spare about when he brought it into the room. And I feel like that's a great model for us today, a great model for us to sit with, that maybe gratitude is complicated. And maybe gratitude is complicit. Maybe gratitude is something that we need to consider a little bit more substantively, especially this week, especially maybe this year in Western North Carolina, where here we are in our sanctuary surrounded by all sorts of things that are symbols and signs of abundance for us, but they're also symbols and signs of disaster and pain and real problems in the way that our social arrangement works. So let's spend a little bit of time first with just the history of this kind of focus on gratitude in American culture, because it is an important focus of American culture. This idea that count your blessings, keep a gratitude journal, all the things that we're invited to do to be thankful and be positive about things. So I'm hoping all you Grace Covenant regulars know that the mythology of Thanksgiving that we learned as kids isn't true. Does everybody know that? Is that news to anybody? That it wasn't really like this little sweet kumbaya moment between a nameless, group of indigenous people and the Pilgrims. So in the 1600s, when Pilgrims began to come to the United States, what they was not even called that at that time, but when they began to arrive here, the indigenous people had already had over 100 years of contact with Europeans. And some had even been to Europe. Did you know that? Some even spoke English. In the Wampanoag tribe, the one that was, really involved in that first Thanksgiving, there were at least 2 people in that tribe that spoke English and had been to Europe. So when the pilgrims arrived, the Sakim, the chief of the Wampanoag, made a gesture of community, of connection, as an act of self-preservation. His people had already been decimated by disease that was brought by the Europeans. They had already learned about how Europeans promised things and didn't keep their promises. And the Wampanoag tribe was also at odds with other tribes. And so it was a way to create maybe the conditions for some safety, maybe the conditions for a possible future working together. Now, we know that didn't work out. But their leader decided to take that chance. And it was an educated, informed choice. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try a connection. Now, the way that has been handed down to us in American culture is that this was a moment when indigenous people sort of consented to colonialism. That colonialism was sort of a bloodless project where there was this, coming together and feasting and sharing of food and knowledge and community. There's a great book out called This Land is Their Land, The Wampanoag Indians, Plymouth Colony, and the Troubled History of Thanksgiving. This is a book by David Silverman. He's a professor at George Washington University. And in that book, he just shares some really fascinating things about those early years of connection between pilgrims and this particular tribe. And how after this kind of mythic moment, when there was this kind of coming together that was invited by the leader of this tribe, that things really went downhill after that for about 50 years. And that resulted in King Philip's War. And this was a war that was very bloody, and it was a war that sort of sealed the deal for the European settlers and their conquest of Native Americans. So this first Thanksgiving story isn't really a story of Native Americans or indigenous people conceding to colonialism. It's a story of strategy. It's a story of conquest. And in the end, it's a story of tragedy, really. So that wasn't when we started calling Thanksgiving, right? That meal was never referred to that way. That happened some 100 years later, when white Protestants in New England started to feel their influence waning in the colonies. And they actually didn't like the reputation they were getting. And they wanted to attract more tourists. Does that ring a bell for anybody? So one Reverend Alexander Young published a story, again, this trying to kind of create an atmosphere, the conditions of people wanting to be there. And in a footnote describing this first meal with the Wampanoag people, he said this was the first Thanksgiving, in a footnote in a paper that he wrote in 1769. And so that's where that that idea that that was the first Thanksgiving came from. It was basically Protestant propaganda in the 1760s. So now, okay, so there we go. We have this. So this idea of Thanksgiving didn't really take hold in the United States in 1769, did it? No, it didn't. It wasn't until Abraham Lincoln declared it a national holiday, and that was in 1863, in the waning days of the Civil War. In fact, it was the Battle of Gettysburg, which was July 1st through the 3rd, where 51,000 people died, that was the beginning of the end for the Confederacy. And it was October 3rd, 1863, that Lincoln declared the fourth Thursday of November as a day of gratitude for the nation. And understand this kind of taking time and pausing with gratitude was a Protestant practice. White European Protestants had always practiced this kind of giving thanks. And so this was a way that Lincoln invited the whole nation into that practice. But it was also a time of great pain. This war, the Civil War, was coming to an end. 750,000 people died in the Civil War. That's just soldiers. We don't really have a count for how many innocent civilians died, but 750,000 soldiers died, most of them from disease, and the rest from violence. And so the country is sitting in that, literally a blood-soaked soil in this country. And the President of the United States calls for a day of gratitude. Okay? And that comes from a history of white Protestants in the face of blood-soaked land calling for times of gratitude. That's not to say that gratitude is wrong. It's just we got to know the history of the way it became a part of our DNA. Now, Thanksgiving didn't really take hold in the United States till later. It wasn't because Lincoln said, let's all give thanks. It was later. And it was actually later in the 19th century when there was a lot of anxiety about an increase in immigration. Okay? And during that time when there was an increase in immigration, once again, white Protestants are starting to get nervous that their influence is waning, that their ways of life are being challenged, and a lot of these immigrants are either Catholic or Jewish or something else, and so Thanksgiving gets a new foothold. White Protestants wanted to assert cultural authority over this influx of Catholic and Jewish immigrants. So this founding myth that we tell in the schools really took hold during that time. Not as much during Lincoln's time or during those early days in colonial America. It was really during that period when immigration increased in this country that this idea of Thanksgiving took hold. So take a deep breath with that. Just let it sink in. And part of how this rolls out, this story, this mythology that we reenact and retell on a regular basis, is that it does kind of create this mentality, this visceral suggestion that colonialism was a bloodless project. That it was something that, no harm, no foul. Good things came of it, right? Maybe there were some hard times, but good things came of it. Dr. Silverman, who wrote that book about Thanksgiving and the true story, the reason he wanted to write this book is because of his deep relationship with contemporary Wampanoag people and the pain that they talk about of their children being in schools where this is being told, and this, this way of remembering something. And the Wampanoag people, they do remember this day too, with a day of mourning. And so we need to hold those things together. Those two things are happening together in our country among our fellow Americans. So there wasn't this friendly handoff of land. There wasn't this beautiful moment of unity. So spiritually, this idea of gratitude is really baked in to Protestant Christianity. In all things we give thanks. In every moment, in every situation. We begin with thanks, we end with thanks. This is our attitude of gratitude, right? And we believe that all good things come from God, so there's always cause for saying thank you to God. And again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But it does skip over our ability as people of faith to just be with lament, be with grief, be with pain, be with the need for repair. So, have any of you all have heard of post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Yes. So, have you heard of post-traumatic growth? Yes. Okay. So any guesses in terms of what culture in the world most kind of puts that post-traumatic growth theory out in front around trauma? America, yeah, like the American culture and white people, the people who have forged the conversation in Western psychology and this therapeutic model. So the idea of post-traumatic growth is that in trauma, we can also, we grow. And that many people who go through trauma actually name that, they're stronger from it, or that good things came of it, or that their life is different, and they're even grateful for the ways that their life unfolds. And again, this is true for some people. This is true, and studies have shown that it also creates a burden on people who have gone through trauma, that they think they're supposed to get to some kind of growth, that this is supposed to fold out into some kind of resilience. This is supposed to make you stronger. This is supposed to make your life better. You're supposed to be grateful that it happened because it made you who you are today. Is any of this familiar? Yeah. The rising up from the ashes and beautiful things coming of it. So everybody has to deal with their trauma in their own way. But if part of the cultural narrative is growth and resilience, which we hear a lot, we hear that a lot. This call toward resiliency. And I've heard it a lot since the hurricane. Look how resilient Western North Carolina is. Look how strong. Western North Carolina's strong, Do I believe we're strong? Yes. Do I believe that can be a spiritual bypass where we don't really sit with what happened and what it is that we're dealing with, why we have 30% of the workforce unemployed right now, why 75% of folks who work in the service economy are unemployed right now, why we have hundreds and hundreds of people who cannot pay their rent and who are getting eviction notices. This idea of resilience and grit and even gratitude, we have to not rush to that. We have to wait. We have to sit with what it is that we're being shown and what it is that our bodies need to say about the trauma itself. So all of us have our own stories around trauma. And you've been around me long enough. I've been here 8.5 years. You can see what I do with trauma. I get busy. I work my butt off. Yes, I do. And I'm naming for you right now, that's part of my trauma response. And I've done a lot of work through my life on trying to understand that. As a teenager, I was the president of every club. In college, I changed the whole structure of the college and the way that it did this and that and the other. Okay? This is what I do. So when people say, Marsha, aren't you tired? Marsha, slow down. No, no. Right now, this is how I am surviving. This is how I am holding on to life. And I do find life in that. Will I crash at some point? Sure, I will. I'll let you know. You'll know. You'll see it. But that way that trauma takes up a home place in our bodies and teaches us how to survive and find safety when we've been through something, it's real. And so we're all doing that on some level. We're all doing that. And throughout my life, I have told that story of my trauma, that I'm really grateful for the person that I am today. And I'm not sure if this applies to all of you, but a lot of you may be grateful for the person I am today. Right? So again, I appreciate that. And I want to name for you too how difficult, how exhausting, how lonely it can be. That your efforts to survive are what get you recognition. Yes. Or what get you even a job, or what brings attention is that you can work harder than anybody else, or you can do this. I'm bringing this to the surface because all of you have a story. All of you respond to trauma in a way, and all of us and our little children within us have figured out strategies that this is how I'm going to try to make my world around me safer. And for me, making the world around me safer is I want us to have each other's backs. I want to live in a community where we can actually trust each other to have each other's backs. So that is self-preservation. I don't think of that consciously, but it is. My drive is love. But underneath that love is this is how I'm going to survive. It's my fight. And you can see me fighting. You can see me doing that. And it's what I want to do, and it's what I'm called to do, and it's what I believe I should be doing. But this is part of what we're invited into in this particular moment, this particular year in Thanksgiving, is not just to pause for gratitude, but to pause to really sit with the complexity and the complicity and the courage that comes with gratitude in times like this. okay? Because we're going to have Thanksgiving here on Thursday. We're going to have the Red Cross bring 150 meals, and if any of y'all want to show up, please do. If you don't, please don't. It's fine, whatever you want to do. But we're not doing it because we need to be grateful for the hurricane. Okay? But we're doing it because the best case scenario to come out of the hurricane is that the human family could be healed. That right relationship could be what we discover. That all this twisted up, gnarled up stuff we're dealing with right now could help us come to one another and see the face of God. And it doesn't mean, you guys, that we couldn't have done that without the hurricane. Okay? So while I'm thankful for the person that I am, I probably could have been a pretty great person without all that. I'm just guessing. And you all could be too. But that's the way God works. No matter what happens, no matter which path we take, no matter which thing that happens to us or through us, God's going to use it. God's going to use it. Does it mean you needed that to be a good person? No. Does it mean God never gives up with the healing opportunities we're offered? Yes. Sometimes trauma yields a better tomorrow, but sometimes it does not. Sometimes gratitude is the golden thread we can hang on to, but sometimes grief is the most humanizing thing that we can do together. Sometimes gratitude can take on its most potent form when it comes with tears, when it comes with this kind of understanding of the limitation. I'm thankful for this moment. That doesn't mean I'm thankful for the hurricane. I'm thankful for the way our community has met this moment. But the hurricane was terrifying and traumatizing, and it hurt people, it killed people, and it hurt Western North Carolina. So much is lost. I was just looking at pictures of Trina and MC's wedding. Y'all remember their wedding, August 31st? Almost a month before the hurricane. And in the pictures, the sanctuary just looks so beautiful. Flowers, the chairs in rows, all the colors, all the different kinds of people in here. It was such a beautiful moment. And looking back at the pictures, it's almost like, is that the same room that we're in now? It almost looked empty, even though it was full. And so I will never look at pictures of our sanctuary again the same. I will never see us the same. And for that, I am grateful. I'm grateful that somehow in God's wisdom, we've been able to collectively choose the human family in this moment. And I'll never forget that. And remember that this word thank you is about memory. It's about I'm going to think of you. When I remember this moment, I'm going to think of your mercy. I'm going to think of your grace. I'm going to think of your love. So, Grace Covenant, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, and thanks be to God.
You did that, Pastor. That was good.
invite the bell choir to continue to create a meditative atmosphere here with their bells. Thank you. And I'd invite you all to just find a posture of prayer in your body and in your soul. That might look like taking a couple of deep breaths. That might look like allowing yourself to hum and find a note that feels resonant with this chord. And in your own time, if you feel led, I'd invite you to voice a prayer aloud. We might end up talking over each other. We might not end up hearing everybody's voice that speaks, and that's okay. God's arms are big enough to hold all of this. If you happen to be worshiping with us online, you're invited to leave some prayers in the chat. I'll be reading those off. But just sink into this meditative atmosphere together for a few moments. I got a text during the service that Stacy Haddingham took a nasty fall during the service, and I'm reading that there's a broken nose, bad leg injury, likely heading to the ER. We're holding Stacy in prayer. Earlier this week, she had asked for prayers for a friend of hers who may be beginning a cancer journey. She just went under surgery to have some things looked at. I'll invite the bells to slowly fade out as we enjoy a few moments of quiet together.
morning again and welcome again to Grace Covenant. I want to share a few announcements and a little information before we sing our closing song. Again, I'm Marcia Mount-Shoop. I'm one of the pastors. I use she, her pronouns. We're very glad to welcome you to this community where we're centering the work of dismantling, disrupting, and divorcing ourselves from white supremacy and the way it takes up space in our bodies, our relationships, our community, and our church. So we're glad you've joined us in this work. I want to invite our ushers to come on and bring in the Connect pads. This is a great way for us to get to know each other and build community while we're together. And I'm also going to now invite Ray Shem to come forward, and he's going to do our We the People Stewardship moment. Yay! Ray! Woo-hoo! Ray, Ray, Ray!
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ray Shem. I use he, him pronouns, and I've recently discovered that I need to use reading glasses, so
it's a good look.
I can't see any of you, but I can see this. So unlike elders Libby, Malachi, and Russell, who's talked to you over the last few weeks, I am not an elder, but I am married to one. Many of you probably know me as the husband of Kate Shem, sitting right over there. Amazing woman. I'm grateful to be here with you today to share some thoughts on GCPC in this last week of our fall stewardship campaign. This December is going to be the Shem family's 10th year of being members here at GCPC. And like many of you, we've seen the church change a lot over that period of time. When we joined this church in 2014, we had just moved up to Asheville from Charlotte and were looking for a church home. Some of our friends in Charlotte told us that GCPC would be a good fit, and when I saw that garden in the front of the church, I was sold. At that time, GCPC had a lot of resemblance to the churches that I had been a part of growing up. The congregation was pretty homogeneous, a lot of people that looked like me. And we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about injustice or racism or cultural structures of oppression. It was comfortable, and it didn't really make me do a lot of thinking or soul-searching. When I look around today, I think about how much our church has changed. And I think about how much I've changed because I've been a part of this church. You know, when I was in high school, one of my favorite movies was The Matrix. I think I saw that movie 4 times in the movie theater, including at midnight the night before my high school graduation. As you probably know, one of the major moments of that movie is when the protagonist, Neo, is presented with a choice between staying in the dream world he's unknowingly been living in or learning about the real world that exists outside of the world that he knows. For me, this church is helping me to wake up to that real world, to see the water that I swim in every day without even knowing about it. We have all lived in the bodies that we were born in, inside of a world that we inherited, a world with racism, with injustice, with systems that were set up by those with power to make it easier to keep it and to extract it from those who don't have it. And some of us never really have to confront this. We continue to live in the dream world where life is fair and hard work is always rewarded, that responsibility and self-discipline are the way that everybody can get ahead in this world, and if folks just worked hard and saved their money, they would be fine. And it's because of this church that I've begun to wake up to the fact that this isn't true. That there are systems that work to keep people who look like me getting ahead and work to prevent others from succeeding. This hasn't been easy for me. White supremacy is something that's deeply ingrained in me. I've learned it from the earliest stages of my childhood. I've left this church grumbling, mad about something that Marcia said in one of her sermons. My fragile ego couldn't take it. Now I got to think about Thanksgiving. Jeez. Sorry. I had to come to grips with the reality that the church that I knew growing up was in many ways just another tool. People who have power to try to keep it. And my brain still resists the idea that what I've achieved, the culture that I grew up with, the blessings that I have received in my life, is built on the back of a mountain of injustice. But I am starting to see it now. I'm starting to wake up to what's really happening in the world. And you know, at the end of the day, this church is telling people what's so, what's real, helping us to see the way that the cards are stacked. I want to try something real quick. First, can I ask everyone to just take a look around you? Think about this space, how it makes you feel. Think about your relationship to this church, the people that you see. Think about how this church is showing up. Now, if you're comfortable, close your eyes. I want you to think about what this church has done for you. Think about how this church might have moved something inside of you. Think about how you're different now because you're a part of this church. Okay, thanks. You can open your eyes. What this church is doing, this is God's work. The Holy Spirit is moving through this place, and it is a miracle to behold. I've never had a relationship with a church like this one before, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one in this room who feels this way. Our church is responding to the worst natural disaster in our history by opening our doors, raising funds to help those who are vulnerable. We're supporting many of our members who to become aware of this legacy of racism and white supremacy. We're partnering with organizations throughout our community run by our black and brown-bodied siblings to participate in repairing generations of injustice. Look, this church is something special. And we've all been blessed with the opportunity to witness and participate in it. But it's not easy and it's not free. This week is the last week of our official stewardship campaign this year, and we have a long way to go. We've raised about a third of the money that we need for next year, and we need your pledges to make sure that all of the work that this church is doing can continue into next year. One of the things I'm waking up to is that dismantling these systems of economic and racial injustice means that people who have benefited from those systems become aware of what they've received and work to repair the harm that's been caused. I know that I've benefited in so many ways from these systems, from my whiteness, from being a straight, cisgendered man, from my parents, my grandparents, and what they gave me. A lot of the time, I struggle with knowing what to do about all of that. For those of you who are listening to this and know that you've benefited too, think about how a decision like your annual pledge serves as a signal of the journey you are on, what this community means to you, and what you are willing to do to support it. For us, Kate and I have decided to increase our pledge this year by 20%. And I'm asking all of you who are listening, who can afford to do it, do the same, so that this church can continue to do its holy work in our community and in our hearts. I wanted to end this, and this kind of got thrown by a loop because of Marcia's sermon, but we're going to try it anyway. I wanted to end this in a spirit of gratitude.
That's all right. Come on, Ray, do it.
By saying thank you to Marcia,
Oh.
our head pastor. Marcia, I can't see you with these on. Thank you for your inspiration, for your leadership, and for your endurance. Thank you for your willingness to lead us down challenging paths. Your commitment to justice has changed me. And I am so thankful that I have the privilege of being a member of this church. On this Sunday, I want you to know that we are all so grateful for all the work that you provide and the guiding light that you are.
Now, who threw who for a loop, Ray? Goodness, thank you so much. And thank you, Ray, for that inspiring message and word and invitation and call. And at the risk of seeming like this is a spiritual bypass, our plan was to now listen to your ditty again. Should we do that? Should we do that? Okay, let's do it. Let's listen to MC's ditty again, and y'all can do the offering. Okay.
What's up, GCPC? It's that time.
It's time.
Let's give. Let's give. We, the people, love to give. Let's give. Let's give. We, the people, love to give. Love, support, plant, and water. Building our community to make it stronger. Let's give. Let's give. We, the people, love to give. Standing for justice at GCPC. Hey, won't you come and pledge with me? Let's give. Let's give. We, the people, love to give. We understand our assignment and we love it. Let's take a vow to make our budget. Let's give. Let's give. We, the people, love to give. Please consider, even if you're new, don't know how, just ask the Stu crew. Let's give. Let's give. We, the people, love to give. Last time, let's give. Let's give. We, the people, love to give.
Grace Covenant. Look at that. Thank you. So the ushers are taking up the offering this morning, and I do want to echo something that Ray said, and that is that this is the last Sunday of our formal campaign, but you are going to continue to hear about it until we've got the pledges that we need. So I know that sounds like NPR, but yeah, you're going to keep getting your program interrupted if you don't get your pledge in. And remember, you might think you've pledged. You might think you've pledged if you're a regular giver to Grace Covenant, if there's automatic withdrawals from your bank account or whatever, you might think that's a pledge. It's not. Okay, that's not a pledge. That might be how you pay your pledge, but if you haven't told us, and that's Brett, really, if you haven't told Brett what your pledge is for 2025, even if you have an automatic withdrawal, then you have not pledged yet. So a pledge is really your best guess at what you think you're going to give the church in 2025, and it's how we budget for the new year. So it's easy to do. You can do it online. You can get in touch with Brett on email or Realm, or give him a call. But we hope you'll get your pledge in, and we want to keep raising those pledge dollars so that we can budget for the new year. We also have this pastor's discretion hurricane relief going on, and I want to explain to you that that money is coming in the door and it's going out. We're not using any of that for our operating expenses at Grace Covenant. We're using it for direct aid for the hurricane. I want you to know that we have now, I don't even have the final tally, but we have raised well over $1 million for hurricane relief. And we have now spent well over $1 million in hurricane relief. That's bigger than our annual budget. Brett has written more checks in the last 2 months than he has written his entire time at Grace Covenant. So it's almost like there's a whole church on top of a church that is happening right now. Give Brett a hug, give him a kiss, bring him some cookies, sing him a song, give him a hug, all the things. And if he hasn't answered your email about your pledge, give him some grace. Send that email again. Stop by and tell him in person. He's doing a lot, and we're very grateful for that. I've told Brett several times he's a hero in this story because we couldn't be doing it without him. So our deacon of the week is Paul Tierney. Woohoo! There's Paul. Paul's available all week for your prayer concerns. And if you have any questions, he'll also be around after church. Thank you, Paul, for all that you do. So this next week begins Advent. And basically all that means is, well, you'll see if you come on Sunday. You'll see what it means that it's Advent. Our Hurricane Relief Center remains open 7 days a week from 12 to 4. If you want to stick around today and help out, Sundays are usually a little bit slower, but that's our chance to get organized in here, get some things cleaned out. So there's always something to do. You'll see the Red Cross is here with hot meals. Please take some to friends and neighbors and family if you know anybody that could benefit from a meal. We also still need volunteers for Asheville Terrace. That's Joyce Foster that you see about that. Our Thanksgiving meal, as I said earlier, the Red Cross will be here at noon with 150 hot meals. And I just invite whoever wants to come and show up. And if you want to bring some food too, great. But this is a pop-up Thanksgiving. We're not going to get the tablecloths out, y'all. We're not going to have floral arrangements on the tables. We're just going to get together and share food and friendship and really do what we can to not feel alone. Because this is a tough year, a tough Thanksgiving year for a lot of people. So if you can join us, I hope you will. But if that's not your deal, it's okay. It's okay. I don't believe I have any other information sharing. Our relief center probably won't be open the full hours the day after Thanksgiving or Saturday. I'm going to come over here at noon just to see if there's anybody waiting for anything. And if you want to show up and help out, you can. But again, we're not going to be doing our regular hours, so our volunteers can take a break. A few prayer concerns. John Brigham had open heart surgery and it went well. Heath Rada is now home. And I have a joy to share, and that is that MC and Trina, through course of events and the way things work, are not leaving Asheville now. Yeah, that was your flight response. But also, that's the way God works, right? Things, no matter which way we turn, God's going to make something new for us. And there's going to be unexpected twists and turns. And we're glad that the twist and the turn brought you back here. So, I think that is it for today. Are we ready to sing, Ray? All right. Let's stand and get in a circle and sing Standing Stone.
Yeah.